You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud and to our Friday show, which is a news-free zone where we ignore all the chaos of the headlines and just talk about what we want to talk about. Today is Friday the 15th of November and I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens.
And on the show today, don't be a dickhead. Easy to say to others, but what about ourselves? Welcome to the dickhead list. Also, we've got recommendations for your weekend, including a book, a TV show, and a podcast that we're all consuming at pace, and a new rule for reading, Mia's latest grandma angst, and Jessie's massive FOMO. They're our best and worst of the week. But first,
would you pay $600 an hour for an orgasm coach? Asking for a friend?
It depends on how dire things got.
Yeah.
I'm okay for the moment, but I feel like if I was in a particularly dry period, then...
Are they coaching my orgasm itself? Like,
That's
come
a great
on,
question.
stronger, harder, go
Let's
harder.
find out.
Okay.
There's an LA-based person who used to be a personal trainer. He's now called Oh Man. He is bearded. He is in his 30s. I don't know why the beard is relevant, but it's in my notes. And he's into BDSM.
Can I please tell you Oh Man's origin story?
Yes.
What happened? Because I'm obsessed with this. So basically what happened is that he was dating this woman who said that she had like sore hips, and he's a personal trainer. And they also dabbled in some recreational BDSM, which is relevant. And he said to her, I was like, I think if I tie you to my ceiling and put you in a kneeling chair and then use a vibrator, I can release your back. Ooh. And then I did that and her hips didn't hurt, her back didn't hurt, and she came 20 times.
And she never left my bedroom again.
She's still there.
Her
hanging from my ceiling.
That sounds like the most fun physio appointment I can imagine.
Apparently, his theory is that the reason women are struggling to orgasm, it has nothing to do with psychological blockages. It's got nothing to do with how we feel about our own bodies. It is that we all sit too much and the muscles around our pelvic floor are not firing properly, and so we can't orgasm. So what he does, this person who spoke to him for the Times, she actually got on a call with him and he says things like, put your right leg around your neck and put your left leg here and then use your vibrator to massage out
while he
watches to massage out a knot in your inner thigh. And by releasing all of these muscles, apparently you have a mad orgasm.
He's helped 500 women.
He's a very rich man.
Since his hobby, at first, he just helped friends and friends of friends. I was going to say family, but that's definitely not written down here. He used to do it in person, but at COVID times, he had to pivot from in-person sessions to develop his O system virtual classes. So, yeah, he's helped 500 women virtually, and prices start at $1,200 Australian an hour. I'm sorry, the $600 is US dollars.
Oh, yeah.
No, it's pounds. I think it's pounds.
Okay.
£600.
So 95% of the women that he treats achieve multiple orgasms. Satisfied clients include New Jersey housewives. I don't know if that's the reality stars or just women who live in New Jersey. The ex-wives of people who've made the most influential people in the world list. These sound like spurious claims. Unverifiable. And even, he says, somebody on vacation here who was a British MP who pretended she wasn't a British MP.
Liz Truss.
Theresa May. Oh, she's retired now. Part of the $125 billion orgasm industry worldwide.
The orgasm industry.
Includes, we're in the wrong industry, guys. It sounds like a much more fun. I want to go to those meetings. Smart vibrators, libido gummies, and mindful masturbation classes. There you go. That sounds great.
I'm into Oh Man.
I'm just saying, why do you need to buy a vibrator and then do a Zoom call with a man? I mean, if this turns you on, but to pay him to watch you use the vibrator, I'm sure that is a kink that a lot of people would be into, but I don't understand
So he specializes
why he needs to watch.
Because tying you to the ceiling on your chair.
He specializes in people who cannot orgasm.
Oh.
So you're saying, hi, oh man.
Oh, he corrects my technique in real time.
Exactly. Yeah. And then he says, put it here, put it there, move your body. He says, support your glutes.
Wait, you're using it on your shoulder. You're putting it in the wrong place to have an orgasm.
And apparently women in particular, it's a lot to do with our posture.
Oh,
and there are a few changes we need to make. But in defense of oh man, I feel like for men, when they can't climax, it's considered a legitimate health condition where you might even go to the GP, right?
Medication.
For women, it's like a nice to have. But if you...
An optional extra.
Cherry
on the
you
top.
haven't had an orgasm in 10 years, you deserve some
do.
help. And I like that there's someone, although he's a little bit
It
expensive.
should be tax deductible
It should
or
be.
a community service. There's a policy for Dutton and Albo to consider in their
Free
upcoming campaign.
Oman sessions. He's like a stroke coach for swimming. Just Don't Be a Dickhead are great words to live by. And also, it's the name of a memoir of a woman I interviewed on Mid lately. You might have heard of her. She's called Casey Chambers. Have we all heard of Casey Chambers?
Yes.
Anyway, her book.
I'm not pretty.
That's
enough.
exactly it.
Wasn't that actually a remake?
No, she wrote that song.
Oh.
Yeah, she wrote that song. She says now, she's like, I'm not pretty enough, don't give a fuck. But that's because she's older and she's got no fucks to give. Anyway, the book's like all these little life lessons, right, from different moments in her life, from divorce to an eating disorder to ignoring bad career advice and all that stuff. But at the back of this book, she shares her dickhead list. And the idea is that for every year we live, we gather a little bit more intel and wisdom, right, about the things we've been through. It teaches us really when we're wrong, like when we're not listening to our lessons, the things we know, or ignoring our gut. And she calls these like her dickhead tells because she says they're the little warning signs that we should learn to listen to, but often we don't because we're too busy feeling insecure about stuff, people pleasing, whatever we're busy doing. These are what she would consider her dickhead signs. Casey included, when she wrote her list down, things like, I'm being a dickhead when is how you start all these sentences. When I convince myself it's not okay to look my age, that was one of hers. Think that being strong means being an asshole is one of hers. Get my eyebrow pierced in a dodgy backyard place in Western New South Wales and leave it in until it goes all red and pussy. That was another one of hers. So you see, they can be existential or they could be very practical, right? So I wrote one.
Yeah.
I'll share a few of mine so we've got some inspo to
Because
go
I'm a
around the
little
group.
confused. I need you to interpret it
It's
now.
basically like the way I was thinking of it is, when are you a dickhead?
Yeah.
So what I love about this
All the
premise,
time.
I know, it's hard for you to specify.
It would be a shorter list if I felt when I wasn't.
What I love is that
Take less
we're,
time.
you know how we talk about red flags? Like we're so good
Yeah.
at pointing out when other people are being
These
a
are our
dickhead.
red flags.
Okay.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is in order to do that, so it's a little bit kinder to yourself than rather
Yeah.
than like you're just fucked. Because women generally, we do have a long list of things that we know we shouldn't be doing. But it's more to kind of remind you, like, you know, not to do that, right? Last time you did that, you ended up in bed with that person. And you know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So I wrote my dickhead list. Some of them are silly, some of them are not. So things like, I know I'm being a dickhead when I don't listen. I just wait to talk. I think that's all of us, really.
Yeah, that is. You are a dickhead when you do that.
I definitely am. Open the clean dishwasher, take out a fork, close the clean dishwasher. Classic dickhead move.
Yeah.
Often that is a passive-aggressive move. I'm usually trying to send a signal to someone in my house or my office maybe of like, I was empty the fucking dishwasher. You should do it, by making a dickhead move.
I didn't know there was another option. Continue.
Forget that my mood affects others. Forget to change my HRT patch. See above. Yep.
Can confirm.
Forget my children aren't me. That's an important one. I'm definitely always being a dickhead when I do that. You have to remember, like, oh, that's right. They're their own people. They're not just me. Refuse to look at my bank balance. Start carrying salt sachets in my purse, which I'd stopped doing.
Yeah.
Now I've started doing it again.
No, Holly, that's just part of being Holly. Why have you stopped carrying salt sachets?
Because I was being healthy and my body was a temple and I kept it going for a whole year. And now, like an addict who's fallen off the wagon, I find myself just like involuntarily grabbing salt sachets whenever I'm at a takeaway shop and just tucking them quietly in the back pocket of my bag. Don't let the truth get in the way of an easy opinion. That's the real dickhead move for me. You know, when you're like, I know what I think about that. And then you do a bit of research and you go, oh, I still know what I think about that.
I will not use that fact. It is inconvenient.
Jessie Stevens.
Okay. I found this task very easy.
Yes.
Very, very easy.
Women, we're conditioned to do.
We should have written them for each other, honestly.
I know. Okay. I know I'm being a dickhead when I find myself saying how much better I feel since I started doing weight training, like right now.
I've been saying that a lot lately.
Yeah. You know, I nearly said it in the last segment when we were talking about posture and orgasms. I was like, I actually said out loud last week, you know, my posture's improved. It has since I've been doing my weight training. I'm being a dickhead. I'm being an absolute dickhead. I don't hate it, but it's annoying.
I like it. We could argue that that's one of those things you needed to learn. So you're like reminding yourself of something important.
Exactly. All right, I've got one that I catch myself right before I do it, but I'm going to call it a dickhead instinct, and then I've got to suppress it. My dickhead instinct is rearing its head. I'm in this specific stage right now where my baby is napping, right? She's quite a good napper. Anyone else in my circle who says, oh, I'm having issues with napping, I feel it. I feel the desire to give them advice. And then I go, that's your dickhead instinct. Suppress it. You're lucky. They're just in a different stage and I've got to shut it down. I know I'm being a dickhead when I get a parking fine and I physically hide it from Luca.
Yes.
Like somewhere in the house. You know when you're hiding something in your home that you're doing something wrong. I know I am being a dickhead when I am scrolling through Instagram or TikTok and I'm actually muttering the word idiot.
Yes! That's such a good
Oh, my God. I do that and I mutter.
Dickhead.
I mutter, I don't know who you are. That's my tell. When I don't know who you are. Who are you?
Who are you?
Who are you?
Why are you talking to me?
I don't know who you are.
And then you remember.
I'm sorry to that man.
You could close the app and put the phone down.
Yeah.
But these people, they're just invading my life with their opinions.
Exactly. I know I'm being a dickhead when I'm not listening to someone because I'm currently on my phone.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll even be on the phone to Luca.
I do that too much.
I'll put him on speaker and I'll check my emails. And I know that I'm being a dickhead. And then he'll say something and then
You go,
uh-oh.
But what do you think, Jessie?
Yeah. What was
we
that
should
actually?
definitely. And he's like, really? But it costs $700. Oh.
Or you just go, I'm not sure. What do you think?
Mia, what are your tells?
So many. For me, giving unsolicited advice,
Oh,
it's a feeling that I get in my body where I think I'm giving someone advice, but I'm just really trying to tell them what to do. What I think, I mean, that's what advice is, right? Is telling someone what to do. But I know that I'm too heavily invested in them following my advice. And I know that if they don't, I'll be pissed off.
You like to fix things. It's one of your more
You're a
traditionally male traits, I would say. You know how they say that?
That's when I'm being a dickhead.
Yeah, because you do like to fix things, which is good.
But I don't like it when people
Do it to you.
do it to me.
No.
Like I just need to vent and then Jace will go into fixing mode or someone will go into fixing mode. I don't like it, but I do it to other people. It's really annoying. Performative kindness. When I do something that I pretend is just kind, but actually I want other people to see me being kind.
Give me an
So
example.
true.
Like I was in a meeting with someone who was pregnant and there was water and was I concerned about her? Maybe. But I was like, usually I would just honestly pour a glass of water for myself. But I was like, you should be drinking more, which is advice. Do you want some water? And I like stopped the meeting so everybody could watch me helping to hydrate the pregnant person.
Oh,
Dickhead.
Mia, she's so kind.
Dickhead
You're
behaviour.
fussing.
I know I'm being a dickhead when I have the instinct that I love something so much, like a piece of clothing or a pair of shoes, that I want to buy it twice.
Oh, yes.
I have never felt that in my whole
I get
life.
so anxious.
Like the same thing twice
Yes.
or different colour?
No, the exact same thing because I get so anxious. I love it so much. I can't ever imagine not loving it. And I'm thinking about what if I lose it? What if it gets worn out?
What if it is, they
What if
discontinue it?
like which they do with fashion. That's the whole point, that you keep buying it. And then, of course, I've done this in the past and I never learned. Then you just like, well, I've just got this other thing.
You've got to prove how much you love it by just pressing add to cart twice.
I know. I just am like, no, don't.
Just once.
That's a dickhead thing to do. I know I'm being a dickhead when I tell my kids stories about myself in the hope that it will
my God.
help them understand something they're going through. And I expect it to help, which it never does.
Brent does this all the time, just outing him as a dickhead right now, but
Yeah.
like all the time to our teenagers who are being teenagers in 2024. And he'll say, when I was at school, I'm like, you were at school in the 70s.
Kids
Like,
do not want to hear your stories. They don't. Young people don't want to hear your stories. It's not relevant to me.
No.
Similarly, when I know that I'm just waiting to interrupt that snow globe thing, where I'm just waiting for someone to finish so that I can jump in and say, look at my snow globe. Yeah, this similar thing happened to me, where, again, I kid myself that I'm trying to make them feel seen, but actually I think I just want to talk.
Sometimes I get in a mood where I'm very taken by myself and like by my own stories and experiences.
Yes.
And I get so excited by myself and my experiences that I think you've got carried away. And you can feel, I get adrenaline. I'm like, I am so interesting. And then it's it's such a dickhead move.
Yeah.
And you can tell that you go, actually, no one else has spoken.
When I have 2 glasses of wine and I get on my high horse and
you make people cry.
start the rant.
If they're not Jessie and me. You've been out to dinner with
Start the rant.
girlfriends.
Oh my God, yes. And I've got confused about where I am. And
Yeah.
I'm like, let me tell you what I think about that thing in a very strident and detailed fashion.
Jessie and I can handle it. Not everyone
And
can.
they're like, what a dickhead.
See,
I'm like, oh my God.
I know I'm being a dickhead when I don't want to cry. I will resist crying. And in my pursuit of resisting crying, I will yell. Like I will get angry before I cry. And it's like if you just cried, you could have probably like saved yourself a lot of drama.
See, I'll do it the
Tears
other way
come.
round when I should be angry, but I'll cry and it'll annoy me.
Yeah.
But I also know that I'm being a dickhead when I get emotionally dysregulated, as you spoke about last week. And I know a therapist, numerous therapists have said, when you feel like that, when you feel like your reaction to a certain thing is outsized and you have big feelings, go for a walk, take a breath. And when I think about that advice and I just go, no, this time it's different.
I love that. Now, hey, I wanted to ask you, because you weren't here last Friday when we did emotional dysregulation, I wanted to ask you if there's anything you think that you've learned about how to emotionally regulate when you think the big feelings are overwhelming. Because we talked on the show about how it's a real thing, particularly for neurodiverse people, like it's a real thing and it can be an actual real hindrance.
And strategies are really important.
I have seen you do that thing which you just talked about where I'm like, are you sure you feel
You can
this strongly
see it.
about
You can
it?
see it in her
And you're
eyes.
like,
You can see her eyes going,
definitely.
Yes.
I've been told that I need to take a walk. And then you see her do a little like side to side and she's like,
And then I'm like,
nah.
I'm not doing it. This is a very legitimate feeling. This is not emotional dysregulation. It's almost like when I used to get PMT and I'd be shocked every time. It would be like, no, I don't have PMT. The world's just fucked and everyone's incredibly irritating. It really always feels so genuine in that moment, no matter how much there's a tiny voice that goes, these are big feelings. What's going on for you right now, pet? And I should go for a walk. And then I'm like, no. And what I know that I need in that moment and what I look for is for someone to match my feelings. That's the only thing that can dissipate them other than time. And time is really boring to just wait it out because I know that they always do dissipate. But my dickhead move and my destructive move is that I will go and try to get someone to be as pissed off
outraged
as me.
you.
You need someone else to be equally as pissed off about that thing.
To validate it. So I
Okay.
need to go, Jessie, can you believe that blah, blah, blah happened? And you to go, oh my God, that is just so bad. But no one ever
Right.
does that.
Yeah, because they're seeing your emotions here
Correct.
and they're going, what's helpful is to bring her down. Yeah.
And ironically, what brings me down is someone meeting me there.
Yeah.
And then I just immediately fall down. Someone going, oh my God, no wonder you're pissed off about that. And I'll just go, yeah.
Oh, this is very
Yeah,
good
this is very
advice
telling.
for
Yeah.
anyone dealing with
Yeah.
the big feelings
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, you got to match them,
Yeah.
and otherwise you're like, you become desperate. Because of course what people try to do is talk you down and go, it's not that bad, here's why. But it has the opposite effect because then you feel like, the word gaslit is overused, but you feel like you're not being validated and you've got to convince them. It's like you don't understand the sky's falling.
Well, this is what we were talking about last week in terms of you feel like you're being told to calm down, which is which is
Nobody
not-
has ever
Exactly.
calmed down by being
No.
told to calm down.
So they don't need to like be as agitated, but to just go, oh my God, that's fucked.
do we think it's useful to know what our dickhead tells are?
Yes.
Absolutely. I found
That's
it.
self-awareness, isn't it?
Yeah. And also to go, dickheads aren't, they're not another species.
Yeah, they're all of us.
They are you last Tuesday.
Me,
Half
20
an hour
minutes
ago.
ago. Exactly.
They walk among us in that
Yeah,
they
they
are
are
sitting
us.
behind 3 microphones currently.
They walk in our shoes because they are us. No, I think that that's really crucial. Not that you won't find other dickhead tells, but I think that that self-awareness, and I think women have it a lot more because we're programmed
Yeah.
for approval and to have other people like us. But I think that it is a really good quality. And I think that the only thing you've got to know is that when you're aware of your dickhead signs, you then go into shame.
Oh, that's a really
So
good
you know
point.
when
Yeah.
you've had it, like when we've done a record and I've been very excited by the sound of my own voice and then I've driven home and just gone, I just feel a bit yucky, you know, and you're just like, oh, I just can't bear myself.
I think the ideal situation in which to use a dickhead list is like, as you say, we're all going to do that.
Yeah.
Is to try not to get to the shame stage, right? But just go like, next time, next time.
When I catch myself, one that I've been thinking about a lot this year is that I'm being a dickhead when I assert my boundaries through bitching. When that's the only way that I can say what I want or what I think is by venting. And so I catch myself in that, and then to go, oh, okay, you're having issues with boundaries right now. Like that actually really helps, I think.
I agree with that. I think, back to your shame thing, I actually think that a small amount of shame is very corrective and very helpful, because if you don't feel shame, you'll just do it again.
It's just how long you let yourself live there for.
Yeah.
That's the trick.
You don't want to
right?
marinate.
Yeah. The drive home is okay.
Yeah.
The narrative in your head of like, I should have said or I shouldn't have said or why didn't I let them say or whatever
I
it
let
is.
go of it very quickly.
But then you pull into the driveway and you're like,
I've forgotten about that.
Okay. I'm not a dickhead anymore.
You're a dickhead.
It's a really good interview with Casey Chambers, if I say so myself, on Mid. We talk about all kinds of stuff, divorce and repartnering and step parenting and all that stuff. Anyway, we'll put a link in the show notes and you'll find it in the Mid feed.
Out Loud is in a moment something for you to read, listen to and watch. It's Recos for the weekend and beyond.
It's Friday, so we want to help set up your weekend with our best recommendations. Mia, you can go first.
Okay, I'm watching a show. This has been my balm through the last few weeks. One of our favourite columnists is Marina Hyde, who's a columnist for the UK Guardian, and she has been working on a show called The Franchise. It's like a comedy about behind the scenes on a superhero franchise, but not one of the good ones. You know how there's like the main one and then there's all these...
Ant-Man, yep.
I was about to say
right.
Ant-Man.
Okay, so the
Green
equivalent
Lantern.
of Ant-Man. And it's about this kind of beleaguered director who's trying to make this piece of art. Marina's one of the writers on the show and producers. It's by the maker of Veep, Armando Iannucci, and a bunch of other things. Very, very funny. So it's got that same Veep vibe, but it's more dry because it's British.
I'm first assistant director. It's my job to keep the actors from killing themselves.
I might be having a few side effects from my human growth hormones.
And I work with the director, assisting his vision.
I'd like to fire the sound.
Okay, you can't do that.
He's wearing the indoor scarf. I thought only directors wear the indoor scarf. Is he mocking me?
The way the show came about is that Sam Mendes, who's a phenomenal director, used to be married to Kate Winslet, but is like quite a fancy pants director.
At Mamamia Out Loud, we identify men by who they've been married to.
Yeah, it's
Not
true.
the other way around.
And he was pitching some TV ideas to Armando Iannucci, and they just got talking about Sam Mendes' experience. I think he was doing one of the James Bond movies. He was just telling some stories about what that was like. His other ideas were shit, but Iannucci was like, oh no, I think there's a show there. It's laugh out loud funny.
Oh, that sounds so good. Where are you watching it?
It is on Binge, and I never do this with a show. I'm watching it twice.
Oh.
So I watched it by myself and then I've gone back and watched it with my teenage son, and there's no one that wouldn't like this because I don't watch Marvel movies. I don't really know the canon, but it's just hilarious.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna
I've been
give that a
hearing
go.
so much about that. I'm dying to see it too. Am I going?
Yes, your turn, Holly.
I'm reading a book. I'm reading a book that I would not expect myself to be reading. We talked about this when we talked about It Ends With Us and Colleen Hoover, and how there are some authors who are really big, but sometimes people aren't proud to say that they're reading them, right? Because we all will think that we're reading. Well, I mean,
Like Julie Cooper.
yeah, like we don't necessarily, but people think you should always be
culture.
reading the latest, like, very literary tome, you know?
So commercial fiction.
Commercial
authors.
fiction, which is actually what I write. Anyway, this book is by Ellen Hildebrand. Now, if that name is familiar to you, you have either read all her books, and she has written like 30. She is an incredibly prolific novelist, or you just watched The Perfect Couple on Netflix earlier this year and became obsessed with that because she wrote that. And obviously her back catalogue's got a big boost from that. I have learned, because I was looking into her, that she has written so many books and they are nearly all set in the same place, which is Nantucket, which is where The Perfect Couple was set. So we all have a visual picture for that now, right? Because we watched it. So posh island, you know, with fancy people living on it, beautiful like grey shingle roof beach houses, all that kind of thing. Money, then the people who live there to work for the rich people, so not money, so lots of like gossip and intrigue. And summer it's really busy and winter it's quiet.
Kind of like the Hamptons?
Yes, very, very much like the Hamptons, but on an island.
It's on an island and it's quite near Martha's Vineyard, where Luca and I got engaged. And that's where the Obamas have a beach house, and it's also Jaws World.
It is Jaws World.
Is it?
Jaws was set on a fictional version of Nantucket. Anyway, Ellen Hildebrand lives there in a big fancy house, which tourists literally go and find because they're so obsessed with her books. You can go and do Ellen Hildebrand tours of Nantucket and stuff.
A bit intrusive.
Anyway, well, I think she's part of her brand, right? But I have started reading her most recent book because everyone was talking to me about her, and it's called Swan Song. And in the same way that the franchise has maybe been a balm for you in the last few weeks, it has been just this glorious, like, a little bit silly, but not silly.
I've been looking for a book like that.
Yeah, like I think it's actually the last in a series, but it doesn't matter because she's built a world, but the plots you don't have to read them in order. And this is the most recent one. And it basically is about, it's a swan song because it's the chief of police there's last summer at work. And of course, there's a mysterious incident and it involves all the people on the island, and there's a new family there and they're throwing these glamorous parties and everyone's skinny and blah, blah, blah. And it basically is told from these different perspectives on people on the island. And it's just fun,
perfect,
sexy, not sexy, but you know, like fun,
not
pacey,
like Rivals.
sexy, like, and pervy. And I'm just absolutely loving it. I can't stop. I want to go to bed and read that book.
Oh, I'm going to read that. I have a question for you about how much you loved Rivals. Have you read Jilly Cooper, and has it made you want to read her other books?
So I read Jilly Cooper back in the time.
Which was the 80s?
Yes. The one I remember the most is Riders.
That was the first
Yes.
one. And they made that into a thing and it was crap, apparently.
Yes. I heard, I don't know if it's true, but maybe Marina Hyde told me, not in real life, I wish, that they're going to remake all of those books, those Rutshire books, if they've got the funds to do so. It hasn't really made me want to go back and read them. I just feel, and I know that anyone who loves books feels like this, there are so many books, aren't there? Like, it's hard to prioritize. And I am trying to get into some of the more current commercial fiction, which is why I'm reading this. So I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I hear you.
But you know, it's interesting because I love Riders, but it slowed down too much in the last couple, didn't it? Don't you think?
Rivals.
Yeah, the TV show. Like, it slowed down a tiny bit.
Yeah,
too much.
I think everything's like that. Did you watch Disclaimer?
I haven't finished, but I'm enjoying it. Don't ruin it.
That final episode dropped on Friday, and that is such an example of a show that should have been a movie. I felt that way with Fleischman Was in Trouble. Like, it's a problem with streamers where, of course, it's more financially viable to stretch it out over 6 hours than to make a 1.5 hour movie or a 2 hour movie. So what it means is that, TV shows, some of them end up feeling really bloated.
Well, speaking of Fleischman, my recommendation is a podcast episode, Sentimental Garbage, which is a podcast we love with Caroline O'Donoghue. But it has been on a break for a while, and she released an episode which remarkably came out at the exact right moment with Taffy Brodessa Akner. It's Taffy Brodessa Akner is a Swiftocrat. And
Mia, I think you recommended her latest book a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
Long Island Compromise.
Long Island Compromise, which I
Dying
loved.
to read that too.
So I loved Fleischman, and I really want to read Long Island Compromise. And the reason this is so fantastic is that it's two women. Caroline is a millennial and Taffy is a Gen X at different life stages. And they're talking about Taylor Swift. And what I love about this show is the unashamed earnestness of it. Like, that's
Always
the whole
so
point.
good, yeah.
I think the thing I thought the other day was that if you were a baby conceived on the first night of the Eras tour, you are now a person in the world who can talk.
That's nuts.
You can walk and talk if you weren't even a thing.
And she's not done.
She's not done. This is her job. Her job is to be on the Eras Tour, a concert that has gone on for so long that it now contains an additional segment about an album that was written during the Eras Tour and contains a song about how hard it is to be on the Eras Tour.
Yeah.
They're so earnest.
An analysis. I mean, they also have a laugh, but they don't
apologize
they don't
for how
apologise,
much they genuinely love something.
for treating it like literature or the great works of art. Yeah.
And I'm not a Swiftie. I wouldn't call myself a Swiftie, but I loved how clever this conversation was and how they were able to dissect it to say things about feminism and heterosexuality and all the different things. It is just such a good listen to very, very smart women.
And how was interesting, the name of it being Swiftie versus a Swiftocrat. Caroline explained it that she and her best friend made that distinction. So a Swiftie is someone that knows everything about Taylor and her life, and a Swiftocrat is someone that kind of uses Taylor's art, her songs, and her lyrics to understand their own life and to interpret and make sense of their own life and process it,
So
which I
obsessed
thought
with the
was
work.
so interesting.
There's some
Yeah,
good bits of
the
gossip
work.
drop in it too, actually, because I also listened to this, loved it sick, even though I'm not a massive, massive Swiftie myself. Like the stuff about Tom Hiddleston that Taffy drops about how she interviewed him just after the Taylor situation.
Didn't you know that? That was an iconic one of her
I knew
interviews.
it, but what the good bit of gossip was her just talking about how much she adored him and what a wonderful guy he was and how he called her kids and like all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just a great chat. I love
I didn't get
Yeah, it
to
was
tell
so
you guys
good.
either that when I went and saw Dolly Alderton the other week, she had the best Taylor Swift theory I think I've ever heard, which was the reason why everyone is so obsessed with Taylor Swift, particularly teenage girls, is because fame, which really she's only written about fame for the last 5-10 years, fame has been the thing, is exactly like being a teenage girl. And instead of it being like, Stacey's bitching about me, it's like you can over-relate. As a teenage girl, you over-relate to being famous because it's exactly how it feels.
You go from being kind of invisible to being very visible in the world.
Yeah. It was
Interesting.
It is a glorious hour and a bit of your life, that show.
After the break, Mia has a new angst that she wants to share with the group. Is she being a dickhead? Only you can decide. Probably.
Every Tuesday and Thursday, we drop new segments of Mamamia Out Loud just for Mamamia subscribers. Follow the link in the show notes to get your daily dose of Out Loud, and a big thank you to everyone who is already subscribed. It's time for Best and Worst, which is the part of the show that explains itself. We share a little bit more from our personal lives. I'm going to go first. My worst of the week, I've made peace with being called Nana. So part of my big thing when Jessie announced her pregnancy, everyone's like, what are you going to be called? I was like, I don't know. And everyone has to make up funny names. I was going to be Mimi and that didn't take. So then I was like, it's awkward giving yourself a nickname. I was like, okay, you know what? Nana. I'm fine with Nana. I loved my Nana. My kids call my mum Nana.
The other day I was in the park and this quite hot woman who might have been early 40s, hot, was in her activewear walking towards us and Luna got her finger out and she said, Nana. She thought that hot woman was her Nana and I said, no, Nana's much older.
Or did she? Because what I've recently learned is that Anne Stevens, Jessie's mum, Out Louder extraordinaire, mascot in the Out Louders Facebook group,
sometimes needs to be muted.
Also called Nana.
Yeah, she has 2 nanas.
And this has sent me into this existential despair because I was very anxious at first about my position on the leaderboard and where I would be because I realised I would be quite far down beneath Jessie, Luca. I always say Jessie, Claire, that order. Jessie, Luca, Claire, Jessie's twin, Anne, and then I'd be next. I felt.
Do you still feel that there's a leaderboard?
That's not how families work.
I don't feel like there's a leaderboard anymore.
Okay.
However, my piece has been thrown into disarray. No sledge on Anne.
Yeah.
Anne's amazing. But I'm going to petition that maybe she could be called Nan. Because
Why do
I
you
think
feel the
it's
need?
confusing. Because I think it's confusing to have two people with the same name. What if I was called Mama?
I think somebody's already called that.
Yes, funny that. Somebody's already called that.
How many babies, though?
I don't want to share my name.
Babies have two mums. Babies have two dads. They don't get
But
confused.
they always call babies, I know babies with two mums or two dads, and they have different names. They're not both Mama.
Really?
No. One will be like Mimu and one will be Mama, or one will be Mummy and one will be Ma. So I want to know if this is a thing. So I
What are
need
you going to do? This child, for outlouders who aren't as intimately involved in our lives as we are, this person in question here is 1, right?
She's 16 months old, yep.
Luna is 1.
Has the ship sailed? I think so.
She knows Nana, and as far as I can see, loves them both, spends lots of time with them both.
I'm not worried about my place in
How
her
are you
life
going
or
to
her
make
heart.
How are you going to make her change her name?
I'll tell you. So one of the things I did for Luna when these guys went away earlier in the year is I made these little albums with everyone's photos because I remembered my kids loved them. And her favourite thing to do is to flick through the photos and name everybody. And now she's got quite a good strike rate.
Yeah.
She points at your mum. This is how I learned, right? Because I thought your mum was grandma. And she pointed at Anne. Her face lit up, which makes me so happy, and goes, Nana. And I was like, so now.
The temperature in the room plunged.
So
And then
now
now Anne Stevens' face is cut out of every photo in the photo.
Yeah. So now we go through the album together and I go, Nan.
We
That's
hate Nan.
That's Nan. No, we love
you
Nan,
can't.
but she's called Nan.
Nan isn't.
It's not taking at all. But I'm still working. So all we do when she comes to my house now, it's all we do. We just look at the photos and we learn that lady is called Nan.
Oh my God.
She's insane.
She is.
She is insane.
How did you react when this information came your way?
Well, it only just came my way, didn't it?
She's like, look, your mum's been crazy again.
Okay.
Isn't it funny though how I have
Yes,
I've
it
always
is.
got to find something to be insecure or anxious about.
Yeah.
I need to pick that up with my therapist.
Yeah, okay. And your best today, Leah
Yeah.
Freedman.
Oh, my best. Sorry, I forgot about that. My best this week was interviewing Jackie O, who I just bloody love her. She's just a really good chick to interview. She's just no bullshit. And she came in and I wanted to interview her about her addiction, which she's written about in her memoir, which is another reco. Great read, that book.
Everyone who's read it has
It's
just
really
said they've
good.
inhaled it.
I've been
really,
listening
really
to
good.
it.
Does she narrate the audiobook?
she does.
Brilliant. And I invited her in with Gemma, her best friend, and they spoke about Gemma's experience of Jackie's addiction as well. But what's so interesting about her is that because everyone in here was pretty excited, you know, Jackie's a big deal and an incredibly successful woman in media. So afterwards we said, would you mind staying for another half an hour and just doing a Q&A with the staff? And she was like, yeah, sure, no problem. She's just so easy. She comes in just with Gemma. And then afterwards, it was a pretty heavy interview. There were tears. It was like an hour and a half, if not 2 hours probably. And she'd come straight from doing 4 hours that morning. And I'm like, do you need a drink? Most people come out of the studio, including me, after a no filter, unable to speak. And she's like, no, I don't need to. I'm like, do you need a weed? Do you need a tea? We've got snacks. She's like, no, let's just go. Let's go. It's fine. No problem. And then she'd answered questions and was so delightful for another half an hour. And then I was like, oh, look, Jack probably has to go. And she's like, no, there's more questions. I can answer more
And
questions.
then she did selfies with everyone who wanted selfies.
Just a delightful person.
Nicole, who works in our people and culture department, nearly humped her.
And the thing is, when you're as famous as Jack, I've met a lot of famous people and you don't always have to be that generous. But she's one of those people that knows she has the power to make or break someone's day, week, month, year by just giving them a little bit of her. And she was just so generous with her time. When everyone wants a piece of you, that's a big ask. Anyway, great book. We loved seeing her.
I'm excited about that no filter.
My worst of the week is the thing about having kids is that sometimes you don't notice milestones exactly as they're happening, but a little bit afterwards you go, oh, that's new. That's new, that
Oh,
thing.
that was the last time.
Yeah. And what I've noticed is new in my house with my 12 and 14, nearly 15-year-old is closed bedroom doors. For ages when your kids are little, maybe everyone's house isn't like this, but their bedroom doors are open. You're walking in and out. Everybody's walking in and out. And they don't actually spend that much time in there anyway. They'd probably rather be around you a little bit or out in the world or whatever. And I've just got to that point with the kids where Billy only just a little bit more, but Matilda very much, where they want to be in their rooms and the door is closed. And I don't think they're doing anything nefarious in there.
Oh, no, they probably are.
But what I remember is I remember very intently being about the age that Matilda was, and my bedroom was my world, right? Like the posters on the wall, you know, my music, my
Does she want to
stuff where I
redecorate
wanted
it?
Oh, she's always printing out new pictures and putting them up. Your room is your sanctuary, right? And it's your thing. And when they're little, it's not like that.
It's the only
room
place
is
you
just,
control.
Yes. And when they're little, their room is just the place where their toys are, you know. But now the door is closed and I always knock before I go in, but I'm like, oh, this is a new era. And it's very normal and it's exactly how it should be. She is literally closing a door between me and her.
Do you
And
have your bedroom door closed?
not very often, which we should do more.
Just for sexy time,
But no,
presumably.
but we don't like, I'm a bit funny with closed doors.
Same.
I think I'm a bit claustrophobic. I don't really like doors being closed.
Neither do I.
And so I'm much happier to have doors open. Weird.
I agree.
Yeah, and
I always feel
unless there's
like
a reason
I'm
to close the
breaching-
door.
Yeah. I always feel like I'm breaching my parental responsibilities. But it's not even a should. It's that when my kids are in the house, part claustrophobia and also part I want them to be able to have access to me.
And you can hear a little bit of what's going on. So it's very normal, but it made me, I was thinking about it this week and just noticing how many times I'm going up to the doors now, you know, with like freaking washing or snacks or come and do this, you lazy buggers or whatever it is. And the doors are closed and I'm like, oh, and it made me realize this is one of those moments where they're just a little bit further away.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
It's great. Like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of joy in watching them grow up, but it is also a little bit, My best is, and I was talking before about how I'm reading this very fun book, and I've been really, really getting back into reading in a big way lately, which is great because it's always been one of the joys of my life. But when I'm really stressed and busy, it's one of the things to go. And
Do you also stop reading when you're writing?
well, I used to, but I'm actually trying not to do that. What I've realized is, ever since I was a kid, the whole reason I wanted to be a writer and work with words is because I've always loved books, right? But then as you get older, books become a luxury, like, imagine having the time to sit around and read a book, you know? And certainly in the very heady, busy years of kids and work, like the idea that you might sit down for 20 minutes and read a book just seems like you can't even imagine it. But what I've realized lately, and as I'm writing things too, that it's the only thing that A, makes you better at writing, is reading, pushes you into new places with what you're doing, and also it's a form of rest. You know, we've talked before about different forms of rest. Like people say rest, and you're like, well, I'm not a lying around doing nothing kind of person. But reading is rest, a certain kind of rest.
Oh, yeah.
And it
can be creative rest.
Yeah, it's creative rest for sure. Anyway, the reason it's my best is I've implemented a new routine. You like this, Jessie? You like a routine?
I like hacks.
We'll see how long it lasts, probably a couple of days. It's been going for a couple of weeks now. When I'm working at home or I've got days at home where I've got some work to do and some other things, I make lists. That's what I do. I go, right, between 10 and 11 today, we are answering emails. Between this time and this time, we're writing a script for the mid-intro. Between this time, maybe we're doing some exercise.
Where do you write this?
On a piece of paper, usually literally, so I can literally cross it off. Yeah. But the schedule helps me.
Yeah.
And what I've been doing lately is I go, and then between 1 and 1:30, we're reading a book.
Oh, wow. So not just because my reading time is when I get into bed, but then I just fall asleep.
Well, that's the thing is because that's always been my reading time too. And sometimes it gets hijacked by our phone addictions, right? Which obviously we're trying, whatever. And then also I often just fall asleep. It's like either lunch break time or maybe 5 o'clock till 5:30 or, you know, like some really random time of the day. And even on weekends, if I'm like trying to I'll go, this half hour here is reading a book time. And I sit on my chair and I read the book and then I cross it off my list.
And you've also, you've hacked it into feeling productive because it's on the list, so it must be done.
Well, I have, but also actually reading is part of my job. I mean, not like now. Like, sorry, Mia, we're not recording a show. I've got to go and read my Ellen Hildebrand. I respect it. Not that, but like it is actually part of my general job to be reading. And so why have I
like
the
that.
weird thing about carving out time, and I know that obviously not everybody can do it like that, but if it's like 6 till 6:30 or early in the morning or whenever you've got it, like it somehow writing it down and putting it in your schedule gives you permission to do it. And you shouldn't need permission to spend 20 minutes reading a book, but somehow you do. Do you know what I mean?
That instead of like just cramming it in the spaces.
I'm like mindfully taking a moment to read a book, and it's working for me, and that has been my best this week.
I love it.
Jessie Stevens.
My worst is not going to Coldplay. I'm sick of not going to things.
Oh, darling.
Like every time, it happened with Taylor Swift too. Everyone's like, I'm going to Coldplay. And I'm like, excuse me. Firstly, when did we get tickets? Secondly, when did we learn Coldplay was here?
I agree with you. Apart from Taylor, well, firstly, I don't like going to concerts apart from Taylor, but I don't understand how everyone knows when people are here.
If people are just so on it. I've never gotten into a queue anywhere before.
How are they on it? Like, it was different with Taylor because it was just everywhere across media. Sorry, I just banged the camera. It was just everywhere. Everybody knew it. It was like a cultural event. Certainly in our workplace, the world stopped. But how do people know?
I vaguely remember the Coldplay thing popping up, and my mum bought tickets.
How long ago?
I reckon it was like a year.
Oh, wow.
Mum bought tickets, and I'm always like, well, where am I going to be in a year?
That's also true.
You just don't know. And so didn't get them, and then I see everyone go.
You're here wondering why you're not at Coldplay.
Exactly. And everyone has this spiritual experience. And I'm like, well, I'd have liked to go, but I am at home on my phone.
Did you ask your mum how she knew they were touring?
She did that thing where she got tickets and then she like told a bunch of friends and her daughters so that everyone would kind of fight for the tickets. And I don't know who she took, but she didn't take me. I kind of assumed she would ask me last minute. Let's just say she didn't. I don't know who she took.
It's because you haven't given her own grandma name.
Exactly.
You're making
Everyone
her share it
said
with me.
that. Everybody did say that it was a transcendent experience, that concert.
I've heard great things. My best is book babies. So there's this thing at my local library. It's at 9:30. If I can, I try and go twice a week, but at the very least I go once.
Do you take Luna or just?
Yeah, just me and the babies. It is maybe a 4-minute walk from my house, the library.
Oh, wow.
And we go up in our little pram and we go to Book Babies where we do our songs, a big story.
Who reads the story?
Someone, like a volunteer from the library, and there's maybe 15 or 20 other babies. And I just love it. Like, it is such a vibe. It is like watching Luna watch other things and just getting out of the house because, you know, it's one thing to sit there and read stories on it, but to have someone else do it. She's always in such a good mood once we do it. Then we go to the toy library. It's part of our routine where we borrow and return our toys. Sometimes Cousin Matilda joins us and Auntie Claire. And it's just such a vibe. And so I've been really leaning into it lately. And I just love that there are free things like that.
Yeah, it's the best.
That's the great thing about
libraries.
You've absolutely nailed it. I think that what I found hardest about being home with babies is being home with babies, literally home. I found it very hard to get out of the house because it just seemed like too many steps. And I found it really hard to have to be anywhere at a certain time and all of those things. But the days are long. The days are really long. And doing something like that
gives you structure.
Short.
Yep.
You just have to walk there.
Get a coffee
it's on
afterwards.
every day.
Yep.
Because I always found it hard to make arrangements with friends because I didn't know how that night would have gone or how that day. So I wanted the claustrophobia of anyone depending on me.
Yeah, and this is literally 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I turn up with breakfast
You can
in my
turn up,
hair. The
not turn up.
state of me when I show up. And I'm like, who's going to judge me?
It's an activity. You need an activity in the morning, an activity in the afternoon.
It's funny how you rediscover libraries in a big way at different times in your life, and that's one of them when your kids are little and you remember like, wow, this is amazing. It's free and it's in my neighbourhood.
Does everyone know about libraries? Like libraries are amazing.
You can get books there.
They're super cheap.
You can work there, right there.
What you do, you borrow and then you give them back.
I know.
And then you can get another one.
Have you heard of that? Okay, Out Louders, I think we've gone a little
cuckoo.
Like a little cuckoo. That is all we have time for today. Big thank you to all of you for being here with us this week, of course. We're going to be back in your ears next week. Mia, read us out.
A big thank you to our team executive producer Ruth Devine, who owns being a dickhead when she machine guns instructions at her husband and sons and expects them to do it all now. Senior producer Emeline Gazilas is a dickhead when she waits for the Nicole of her friendship group to organise catch-ups or maybe buy Coldplay tickets. Maybe even suggesting to the Nicole, hey, we should organise a catch-up soon, but never organising it herself.
Oh my God, I do that.
That's so true. And, of course, our audio producer is Leah Porges. Her dickhead list includes when she forgets to eat and then wonders why she is angry and snippy with everyone. Our social media producer, Isabel Dolphin, has a bit of a reputation amongst her friends for being a dickhead when it comes to packing for a girls' trip, always assuming they'll bring all the essentials she forgets.
The dickhead never packs toothpaste.
Or a phone charger. And Josh Green, our video producer, his dickhead list includes getting too absorbed in his hobbies and forgetting to spend time with his wife. Oh, that got dark quickly.
He's a sweetie. Bye.
Bye.
Shout out to any Mamamia subscribers listening. If you love the show and you want to support us, subscribing to Mamamia is the very best way to do it. There's a link in the episode description.